What's up, it's Brandon from Tattooing 101, and today we're going to talk about bug pins and standard liners. I had a couple people ask me what's the difference. They wanted to see the difference between the two. So I'm going to go over the 7-round liner and the bug pin 7-round liner. So the one thing I picked up throughout the years is anytime you're buying a bug pin, it's going to be like 2 needles difference between the actual diameter. So if I'm pulling a line with a 7, and this bug pin 7, this bug pin is going to look more like a 5. So that's one thing to think about, that they are going to be smaller in the skin, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. And if you like content like this, and this is helping you on your journey of becoming a tattoo artist, make sure you like and subscribe down below. So before we jump into tattooing with these and you seeing the difference firsthand, we're going to talk about how to tell the difference between the two. If you are ordering standards or bug pins, what are they, what to buy, things like that. Okay, so if you're into tattooing, obviously you know already that if you're looking at your needle groupings, you're going to see some numbers on there. There's going to be, let's say, a 1207 RL. That stands for Standard 7-Round Liner. So the 12 means that it's a standard size for the gauge of the needles. Now, if you're looking at 1007 RL, that means it's a 0007 round liner. Most tattoo artists are going to call these bug pins, so I'm just going to tell you that they are called bug pins because 95% of the time, if an artist is talking about a bug pin, they're actually talking about a 00, which is a 10 gauge. So if you're wanting to get into buying bug pins, you're going to look for the 10 gauge needles. Okay, so I hope that was able to help you guys out. Let's get into tattooing with these and seeing the difference between the two. Okay, so let's get into the difference between the two. We will start out with our standard, which is going to be the 12. And open it up and you can see that the grouping's still really small. 7s are very, very small with their groupings. But we'll open up the bug pin and show you side by side of how different they actually are. So I'm not sure if you could see in the camera, but you could definitely tell a difference when you're looking at them in person. One thing you want to think about is these cartridges do come with the size on them. So this bug pin actually has a 5 on the top. Even though it is a 7, the cartridge says a 5. I guess that's so you don't mix them up, but one thing you want to think about is it still has 7 needles even though it says a 5 on it. So you have to be very careful if you are using these cartridges, the police cartridges from CNC, just because bug pins do react to skin and fake skin a little bit differently. There's more needles and they're very, very tiny, so it's really easy to kind of slice up the skin if you are using them. So let's plug in the machine and take a look on how they look compared to each other. So we'll start out with our standard. Just going to make a line up here for you to be able to see exactly what they look like side by side. So this is our standard 7 right here. We'll switch out real quick and go into what our bug pin looks like. And also, when I am switching over, I'm turning my machine down so it doesn't slice through the face skins. So I have it turned down, and we'll go right beside this line so you can see exactly the difference. So with fake skin, it's really hard to kind of tell the difference between the two just because they are very close. But whenever you are going into actual human skin, that's where these will definitely benefit you when it comes to that. You'll definitely be able to tell, just because you have to think that the diameter isn't that crazy of a difference, but you're going to be able to make really clean, smooth, very tiny lines if you're using a bug pin. The difference being, if you did use a 5, it's really hard to get nice saturation when it comes to really, really tiny needles. So using a 7 bug pin will be the size of a 5, but it will just be extra saturated and look really, really nicely. So that's why we do use bug pins when it comes to liners. If I'm doing detail in a portrait, if I'm doing really tiny eyelashes or something like that that I don't want to be super powerful, I'll go in and use a bug pin for that. So let's do a couple of lines with the standard. Turn my machine up again for that, and go through and line with our standard 7. Now obviously I'm going to be using these bug pins for more like realism and things like that. I don't necessarily use them for more neo-traditional. I just use, 11 just because my outlines are going to be really thick, and then I could just use a standard 7. Because you want to be able to tell a difference in like the different sizes you're using, but you don't want them like so drastic that it just doesn't go well together. So I don't really use bug pins when it comes to the style of neo-traditional. It's more when I'm doing realism and different styles like that, black and gray and things like that. So that's how I tattoo with my standard. I'm sure you've all seen me tattoo with a standard needle plenty of times. So let's switch over to the bug pin. With the bug pin, I do turn my machine down. I'm running it at about a 7 right now because I don't want those needles to just completely destroy and cut up the skin. So I turn it down. I also have my hand speed about the same. I'm maybe slowing down just slightly just to make sure that the lines are saturated. And you don't want to push at all with these needles. If you're like pushing, the needles go into the skin so easily that you could really destroy someone or really cut up their skin and cause problems with healing, things like that. So when you're tattooing with bug pins, you just want to be really light. Don't stay in one area too long, and just move through your tattoo very delicately. If you want a super saturated thick line, you don't want to be using any bug pins at all anyway. So this is for all of those really nice dainty tattoos. You'll be using things like this. The biggest thing you want to think about when you're using bug pins in any small needles is whenever you are tattooing with these, any shakes at all. So if you're not having a stable positioning with your hands, if you're just like hovering your hand, you're going to be able to see every little shake with this tiny needle. So your lines aren't going to be, nice and clean because you don't have the stabilization. With thick liners, you could get away with being, a little sloppy with them and they'll still be saturated because the line's so thick. But with these little liners, it leaves no room for you to mess up at all. You need to be completely 100% on all of your lines and not shake at all, or you'll be able to clearly tell in your tattoo through healing and everything like that. So this is the difference between a 7 bug pin and a 7 standard liner. Obviously the different sizes will do different things. There are also bug pin 3s that run like a 1, which is super tiny. Barely any tattoo artist that I know has used bug pin 3 just because they're so small, unless it's like a crazy small tattoo. Maybe they've used it once or twice. But this is the main size that I'll get because I don't like to use standard 5s. So I'll get bug pin 7, and I use these all of the time. So I definitely recommend you try it out. It works great for me. Just make sure you follow all the steps that I had in this video whenever you are tattooing so you don't mess someone up. And if you're having issues with any of your line work when you are tattooing, I definitely recommend you check out our free line work secrets guide, and I'll leave it in a link down below. So sign up for that, and I hope it's able to help you out, and you guys have a wonderful day.